There's one additional display of quantitative data that I would like to talk about, and that is the ogive for a cumulative frequency distribution. That word ogive is pronounced o-jive. Ogive. Now, we haven't talked yet about cumulative frequency distributions. First, let's make sure we know what this word cumulative means. It means increasing by successive additions. And I'm going to go through this using an example. So in a class of 30 students at Sacramento City College, the height of each student was measured. Below is the frequency distribution for the students in the class, for the heights of the students in the class. So there were 2 people that were between 4 feet and 5 feet tall, 22 people that were between 5 feet and 6 feet tall, and 6 people that were between 6 feet and 7 feet tall. Now, suppose that instead of being so much interested in how many students were in each height category, suppose we were more interested in questions like, how many students were less than 6 feet tall? Well, to answer that, you would add up the number of students that were between 4 feet and 4 feet 11 inches tall, and the number of students that were between 5 feet and 5 feet 11 inches tall, and you would say, okay, there's 24 students who are less than 6 feet tall. What if you wanted to know how many students were less than 7 feet tall? That would be the students that were between 4 feet 11 inches, the students that were between 5 feet 11 inches, and the students also that were between 6 feet 11 inches. So you'd add those up and you'd get 30. I didn't have a good way to put this in here, but maybe I'll just do something like this. Note the number that are less than 5 feet tall is just the 2 people that were between 4 feet tall and 4 feet 11 inches tall. Those are called cumulative frequencies. So the cumulative frequency table, the first frequency, cumulative frequency, is just how many people are in the first class. The second cumulative frequency is the total number of people in the first 2 classes. The third cumulative frequency is the number of people that are in the first 3 classes. And if there were more classes, you would continue adding them up. So we're increasing the count by successive additions. Now we represent the cumulative frequency with this ogive thing. And the ogive is going to be dots, not bars. There are going to be dots connected with straight lines. At the lower limit of each class, we're going to make a dot that represents the number of data values before that class, up to that class. I better give you a minute to make this coordinate system. So we've got a vertical axis that goes up to 30, because that's the highest cumulative frequency we need. And I've labeled those numbers cumulative frequency. And then on the horizontal axis, we have the lower limits of each class, just as we would put in if we were doing a histogram. And notice there is also one lower limit that does not appear up in our table. We did that with histograms too. We put in the lower limit of the next class that we would have if there was a next class. And that's so that it's clear where the last class actually stops. And then we should label what those heights mean, what those measurements mean. They're heights of students in the course. Above the, I'm gonna start here. So above the 5 feet 0 inches, we put the number of students that were less than 5 feet 0 inches tall. So we're not putting the number you see in the 5-foot box. What we're putting in is the number below that. So I've made a dot that's across from the 2 because that's how many students are less than 5 feet tall. For the next dot that's above the lower limit of the 6-foot class, again, this dot is representing how many people are in the classes before that. How many people are less than 6 feet tall? 24. So I've made a dot across from the 24 above the 6-foot mark. And then the last dot, how many students are less than 7 feet tall? All 30 of them were, so the dot above the 7 feet mark is at height 30. The last dot is always, for an ogive, is always going to be the total number of numbers in the data set, or the total number of people in your sample, because that's how many you're going to have by the time you get through all your classes. Now, the one dot I haven't talked about yet is this one here at the 4 feet 0 inches mark. And that's on the horizontal axis, meaning there's 0 people there. There's 0 people that are less than 4 feet tall. So I've put that note up here. So that's where that 0 is coming from. So again, the dot always represents the number of data values in the classes prior to the one whose lower limit you're looking at. Which means the first dot in an ogive will always be on the horizontal axis, because there will always be 0 data values below the lower limit of the first class. Before you watch the next video, please do the following Build Your Understanding problem. Every morning, Jack rides a school bus for 5 miles to get to school. One morning, he decides to count the number of birds he sees. Below is the frequency distribution for the number of birds he counted during each mile. Fill in the cumulative frequency column and then make an ogive. Good luck, and I'll go over this with you in the next video.